I genuinely believe with my whole heart, I have found one of the best jobs for Muslims out there in terms of a profession. When you're comparing it to doctors, lawyers, all of these things, I think that this is a hidden gem in our particular community that not many people have tapped into. Now, first and foremost, who am I? And I'm going to give it away as to what the job is. I'm a commercial pilot and I'm an airline pilot in the UK. And what I do is I help aspiring airline pilots get into the industry. If you guys are watching this video, you are Muslim, one, and two, you are thinking of what can I do that will be coincident with my religion that I can work around, and hopefully this will give you an understanding as to why being an airline pilot is one of those jobs that will allow you to not only practice your religion, but also be in a very reputable, respectable job whilst doing so. And if you're from a background like myself, then this will hopefully give you some inspiration and some direction towards how you can start your steps towards the industry. Now, I've got 5 main reasons why you should consider being a pilot. Now, if you're scared of flying and you're not interested in it, then obviously this isn't going to apply to you. But if that is something that is just not a massive factor for you, then hopefully these 5 things could reason with you as to why this is potentially a good idea. So the first thing is travel. Now, as pilots, we get to travel quite a lot. We get to see loads of new things, loads of different places, experience loads of different cultures. Before I started my flight training, I had never in my entire life been abroad. Literally never. And when I started my flight training, and since then, I have been to so many countries. And that is not to flex or to show off. It is to simply say that being an airline pilot has opened doors to me that now I have been able to explore and visit so many different countries and have been able to engage myself in so many different cultures and learn about so many different things, which I find absolutely incredible. And I think that everybody should be given this opportunity to be able to travel, to be able to explore different places, because it gives you a different perspective of life and it allows you to grow as an individual as well. And I think that's so important. Now, I know that this isn't a great reason. However, I know a lot of people who I've spoken to have mentioned and quoted that this is one of the factors as to why they consider becoming a pilot. And it's just the respectable nature of the job. It's a very respectable job, and ultimately from the background that I'm in, being a British Pakistani, I know that having a respectable job is super important for us. I know that full and wholeheartedly. When you go to social gatherings and meetups, your parents are always going to be discussing who does what and what job is more respectable than the other. And I know that our culture really impresses upon us to get respectable jobs. And I think there's an element of the sacrifice that has been made in order to allow us to be educated in this country. And that is why they hang on to that element of, you know, we need to be in respectable and highly professional careers. And I respect that as well. I also think to myself, in fact, I know full well I would not be in the position that I'm in had I not had that education in the UK. So I think there's an element to it that we are going to have to pursue respectable job roles, considering the sacrifice made in order to allow us to be in this position. But I think that being a pilot is definitely up there with one of the highly respected job roles out there. And I think that's another incentive as to why you should consider it. Now, another element is that it's a very rewarding job. Now, a lot of people, of course, will compare it to something like being a doctor, where you're helping people on a day-to-day basis. And no, you're absolutely right. Being a doctor has such a high level of barakah and an element that we won't get as pilots, where we're saving lives potentially on a day-to-day basis. Now, there's a caveat to that it's good that we're not saving lives on a day-to-day basis, because if we were saving lives on a day-to-day basis, then that means something's going wrong on a day-to-day basis. But equally, we're allowing people to travel from one place to another. For example, people are visiting families, people are going for very noble reasons to certain destinations, going to study, going to do all of these things that we are actually allowing and facilitating to happen. I know there's a lot of people out there saying that, yeah, but you're traveling and there's people going to be going and doing other stuff when they're traveling and all of these things. Now, yeah, that's completely out of my hands what they do and what they get up to. I can't give you a fatwa. I'm not a scholar, so I can't tell you what is right and wrong in that regard. However, I know from my heart and from my intentions that I am taking people and I'm rejoicing people with family. I'm taking them around the world, allowing them to travel and visit new places and develop themselves as human beings. I'm allowing them to potentially open doors of education for themselves. Like I said, I wouldn't be in this country if it weren't for an aeroplane. So ultimately, we're allowing people not only from a very basic surface level to reunite with family and do their education, but also generationally, we might be having an impact by allowing someone to get to their destination, wherever the country that they're going to study. That impact that you could have could be sadaqah jariyah if your intentions are in a positive outlook like that. So genuinely, I believe if you start a career like aviation with the intention in mind of helping people, and this is exactly why I do what I do, with the intention of helping people, you will always find yourself reaping barakah from it all. Now, another reason I would say you should become an airline pilot is because the career progression in the industry is like no other industry at all. I would say from the position that you're in when you're starting out to the position that you can finish in, there is literally anywhere that you can finish. This is a particular job that you can go and do anywhere in the world. And I know a lot of guys, especially from Muslim backgrounds, like to finish their careers in the Middle East, and they like to live out in the Middle East and do those kind of things because they're going to be living in a Muslim country and whatnot. And that's fantastic. So if you are interested in doing that, then this is a job that will allow you and facilitate you to move to the Middle East if you wanted to. So I'm a massive advocate that if your goals and your blinkers are set outside of the UK or wherever you're from, then this is a job that opens doors in the entirety of the world for you. There's other jobs that do that, like becoming a doctor, like becoming a lawyer, or opening your own business. Those are also jobs that can help you get elsewhere. But in terms of a direct route, I think this is the quickest and the most convenient. Now, another element is the flexibility of the work. So, for example, if you find that you are in a particular position where you're working a 9-to-5 job, you will also find it's very, very difficult to get certain days off of work. For example, Eid, it's hard to get a certain block of days off for Eid. And one of the things that is beautiful about being a pilot is that we have a very flexible pattern at times. I mean, some airlines, they will have a fixed pattern, which you can also hopefully manipulate in the way that will work for you. But if you're in a flexible pattern, then what you will get is something called guaranteed days off in a month, more or less with most airlines that you will work for. And what that means is essentially you're going to be rostered to work however many days they choose to allocate to you. But there's a caveat to it, which means you will have a certain number of days off that are a minimum requirement for all pilots in a month. So in the UK, you must have at least 7 days off in any consecutive 4 weeks. So what that means is that in most airlines, they will actually allow you to choose which days off you are going to have. And those are under the label of guaranteed days off. And now there is a limit on that. Usually it's about 3 or 4 that you can choose. But if, for example, I know Eid is next month on the 10th of August, then I'm going to choose to block out the 9th, the 10th, and the 11th with my guaranteed days off. And I can pretty much guarantee that I will not be working those days. And so I will guarantee my chances of a very high likelihood that I will have Eid off, and that's fantastic. So that means I'm very, very flexible with regards to events like Eid, which are always up in the air with moon wars. So I genuinely believe that the flexibility element is actually in our favor. And on top of that as well, we don't generally work as hard as you might think. We do get obviously some days that are very, very tiring, and they can lead into other days that can be very tiring, and you can find that the roster can be quite busy, especially in summer periods. However, in the winter periods, I would say that you are very, very quiet. And I've even made a video recently about what the work schedule looks like. So if you really want an in-depth analysis of it, please feel free to watch that video. But with regards to the actual general overview, you actually aren't working as much as a 9-to-5 would be working throughout the course of a year. And that's because our job requires a high level of performance. And there's a lot of analysis and investigation that goes into making sure that a pilot's roster is at a particular consistency that does not overhaul and overwork them. So we are rest assured that we're in a particular industry that's going to keep us protected with regards to our rest and with regards to our days off. So like I say, you have a minimum of 7 days off, but that's a minimum. Most airlines will give you more than that, which is for some airlines about 10, can go up to about 12 days off minimum in a month, which is fantastic because then you can utilize those days off doing things that might benefit you in other ways. Now, there are 3 limiting beliefs that I found a lot of Muslim pilots do not know about when it comes to being a Muslim pilot. Now, first of all, can I fast? Yes, you can fast whilst you fly. The next question is, can I pray? Yes, you can pray whilst you're flying. The only caveat to that is, again, make sure you're in a particular phase of flight that is very, very quiet and the lowest level of workload, so that you are in a particular position where you have the capacity to pray. Otherwise, don't do it until you're in that particular phase of flight or until you're back on the ground. Now, we have a massive bonus that we are going to be travelers whilst we're operating an aircraft. So we, of course, shorten our prayers. We don't necessarily have to fast either as a traveler. And that makes our life a lot easier. However, we will have to make up those fasts. And like I say, you still have to pray, but it will just be shortened. Just make sure that it's at a convenient time in the phases of flight that you're going to be going through. But it tackles that limiting belief that it isn't possible, because I do it. I fast, I pray, and alhamdulillah, I haven't had any problems with regards to it, with regards to practicing my religion, especially in the UK. And I know that there are certain countries and certain areas that are a bit more difficult to practice your religion, and hopefully the world will start making things a little bit easier. Another element is that you can't have a family or sustain a family whilst being a pilot. The reality is very different. I've worked with so many pilots, and a lot of them have families, a lot of them have wives, kids, and they balance it absolutely fine. And there's an element as well to being a pilot. You can either choose the short haul life or the long haul life. The short haul life, you get home every day. The long haul life, yeah, you're going to be doing trips away, but you get also longer lengths of times at home. So you can choose. When it comes to your experience level, you can then choose which one is going to be more suited to you and your work-life balance. So there is a lot of flexibility that people just do not open their eyes to. Now, with those benefits, of course, there are some prerequisites which can make it a little bit difficult. I know I've listed off lots of reasons as to why you should become a pilot, but there are certain elements as to why you might not be able to. For example, the medical element, we do get all of these benefits because our job is in a particular field where not everybody can get into it. So for example, for me, I get tested medically every year to make sure that my eyesight's good, to make sure that my hearing's good, to check for any color blindness or anything else with regards to my physical health. I do get checked every year. We also go into the sim every year at least to get evaluated on our operational proficiencies. So to make sure that we are still performing at the highest standard and we're being checked on that. So our job is constantly at risk, as it were, every year. So we have to be current with all of our procedures and all of our abnormals and emergencies to make sure that we pass those particular checks and tests. Another element is that we're going to be waking up at weird times, especially in the short haul world. We could be waking up at 3:30 in the morning, or we could be waking up at 12 o'clock and going to sleep at 3:30 in the morning. So it is going to be, of course, very weird times that we're going to be operating. So that is something that plays on our mind. We have to have the right amount of rest, and we have to monitor ourselves on a really, really individualistic basis to see what our bodies require from ourselves. However, that doesn't negate the fact that this is, in my opinion, the best job on the planet. And I would never, in a million years, and I know that hundreds of pilots out there would say the exact same thing, I would never, ever do anything different. And I genuinely believe that if you are a young person looking for a profession and you're looking for a particular role to go into, I genuinely believe that being a pilot is the best job on the planet. And I really advocate that it is something you pursue and you consistently and relentlessly aim for and try your best to attain, because I genuinely believe in my heart that I wouldn't be the person I am today had I not gone through the extensive training, had I not gone through all of those hurdles to get to this position. And I'm really, really grateful for myself for going through all of that. But ultimately, we are in a blessed position. We've been educated in the UK. If you have the capability and you have the capacity, definitely pursue a career like becoming a pilot, and don't let any stigmas or misconceptions or preconceptions phase you in your journey towards becoming an airline pilot. And if you need help on that journey, feel free to go into the description and book in a call with myself. Jazakallah khairan, and thank you so much for listening.